Welcome, everyone, to our final session for our On the Verge book group. Tonight, we're talking about waking up, showing up, and shining, really bringing together the whole book, On the Verge, this book that I wrote a few years ago as a way to help me understand what was happening in my own life, as a way for me to put into words, to be able to share with others how I felt like I was waking up and showing up more fully for my life, and how I was starting to shine, letting go of the doubt and the fear that had held me back for so long, and really just shining and showing up in all areas of my life. So today, we're just going to talk about this idea of what does it mean to wake up? What does it mean then to show up? And how do we shine when we do wake up and show up? So just a short refresher about being on the verge. What I write about in my book is that being on the verge or living on the verge is really about allowing yourself to be present, allowing yourself to just be here, right now, with whatever's going on, right here, right now, in this moment, because it's constantly unfolding. It's constantly unveiling itself. It's constantly emerging and expanding. And so can we allow ourselves in some ways to just really surf that wave? And that's what it means to live on the verge, is to surf the waves of life, to surf that undulating, ever rising, falling, moving in and out, contracting, expanding life that we live in. There is nothing that is permanent in this life. And when we try to make things permanent, it's when we suffer. So if we can learn to surf the waves of the present moment, in this moment, in this moment, in this moment, well, then now we're really starting to experience what I call being fully alive. We feel it when we're on the beach. We feel it when we're on top of mountains. We feel it when we're with our children and our partners. We feel it when we're alone in the woods. That sense of aliveness, that of possibility. So that's what living on the verge means. Well, how do we do that, right? It sounds good when you're on vacation. It sounds good when you've got, a day without plans. But it's not so easy to do in the busyness of our daily lives. And many of us, and many of the people that I work with, we're finding ourselves so bogged down by being so busy, what I call crazy busy, by being so weighed down by information and news, by things to do, emails and texts and social media and plans. Oh boy, we're walking around with this jumble of responsibilities, information, and just have-tos in our lives. And this is what I call our busy mind. So when we wake up, what I just call waking up, it's kind of like just waking up in the morning, right? You've been sleeping all night and you open your eyes. And it's like, oh, okay, I just woke up. That's what waking up is. It's waking up from the busyness that you and I and all of us think is the most important thing, right? So when we wake up out of our busy mind, out of these thought patterns, we sense air, right? There's a general sense of relief when we wake up. You know it, you feel it all the time. Sometimes it's like, oh, that moment when you just put your head on the pillow at night, like, oh, when you've let the day go finally, that's what it feels like to wake up. And it happens all the time, everyone. It's happening to you all the time. And so by understanding this and recognizing this, that there are times during the day when you're not stuck in your busy mind, you can start to pinpoint it. Yep, that was a moment. Oh yeah, here's a moment. I love this song. I'm jamming to the song in the car. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just in the moment, in my car, foot to the pedal. Here we go. right? You can sense it in those moments when you're not stuck in the busyness of thinking, figuring out, of planning, of remembering, of organizing, right? We're problem solvers. How many of you out there constantly solving problems? So the churning of our busy mind, I just call it the busy mind, the churning of our mind, this problem solving mind is constantly going, but we don't have to participate in it all the time. So right before we started recording this, the group and I just took a moment and we paused. And we paused and gave ourselves permission to not have to think. And we did that by just sensing into our bodies. You can do this anytime, anywhere. You can give yourself permission to not problem solve for a moment. No problem solving, no figuring out, no organizing, no controlling. What does it feel like to put that luggage down? And when you do, when you pause, that's when you wake up. You wake up out of this dream state of the busyness and the churning and the constant calibrating that your mind is doing all the time. So noticing waking up, it's happening already, but we can also practice doing it. And in many ways, that's what mindfulness is. Mindfulness practice is really building the capacity to notice where you are moment to moment. So noticing when you get caught, as I spoke of in one of our sessions, caught in all of the traits of the busy mind. There's crazy busy, right? That swirling dervish. There's information overload, when you feel like you're just carrying so much. There's sloppy mind, when you just kind of get dulled or muted and you make mistakes. There's overthinking, when you're constantly repeating the same thing over and over and over again in your head. And so these traits of the busy mind, and just knowing them, can help us to recognize when we're in it and to recognize when we're not. And that's mindfulness practice. That's what it is. It's just noticing. Noticing when you're busy and noticing when you're not. And when you're not, you're going to feel good. Noticing when you feel good is a good indication that you're not in your busy mind. You know, sometimes when we're doing good work, when we're in creative flow, when we're solving problems, we kind of feel alive, right? We're getting stuff done. There's a good sense to that as well, but I'm not talking about the good sense. I'm talking about the times when we feel really weighed down by life, which for most of us is most of the time when we're awake. So waking up can be as simple as just opening your eyes, snapping your finger. Boom, where am I? Where am I? I do that all the time. Where am I? Come back here. Waking up from your busy mind is step one. Then showing up. Showing up in this moment. Making yourself available to yourself for your life right now. By noticing your body, sensations around you, sights around you, colors, textures, smells, tastes, sounds, right? By noticing what's happening, we show up fully in the moment that we're living in. So showing up is another way of being present, right? We wake up and we're present. And now showing up is really sustaining, not really holding on to, but kind of surfing and allowing yourself to linger in a brilliant moment. So we wake up and we show up. And we show up in this moment. And so what we talked about a few weeks ago was this sense of aliveness that we feel when we're present. And it's happening all the time. So what I speak to you all about and what I write about in my book On The Verge is common sense. And it is such common sense that it is available to every single one of us at any time. You don't need fancy practices, fancy teachers. I'm not a fancy teacher. And my phone's ringing, so I'm going to mute that. You don't need fancy teachers. All you need to do is just start noticing where you are, how you feel. When you feel engaged and alive, when you feel jazzed and frisky and a little, feisty and enthusiastic and passionate and creative and willing and open, just know that that is a really good sign that you're present, that you're engaged in the moment, that you're right here, right now. So we wake up, we snap ourselves out of busyness, and then we show up and we appreciate the moment that we're living in. We appreciate what's arising, this constant emerging of life, of opportunity, of possibility. And let me tell you, when you do those two things, you shine. You don't need to try to shine. I love the word shine because it's a little softer than, be successful, manifest your destiny, which isn't a bad thing. But shining is just, I don't know, there's a very soft quality to it that makes me smile. We shine when we are present. We shine when we're really into the meal that we're cooking. We shine when we're taking a walk with our dog and we're just present to everything around us. We shine when we greet the person in the coffee shop and we make a connection. We shine when we're able to stand in front of a room of people and be honest, direct, and clear. We're shining all the time. It doesn't mean that the world will notice, although it might, but we're shining when we're present, when we're out of our own way, when we've been able to shift beyond our busy mind and all of that stuff, sloppy brain, crazy busy, information overload, and we're able to sustain a moment when we're here, right now. When you watch a sunset sometimes, or a sunrise, you don't want it to go away. You want it to last forever because it's so beautiful. And then it changes and the sun rises and all the colors go away. Well, when we're shining, we're kind of hanging out in this brilliant sunshine for a longer period of time. Now, life will slam us, and there's no doubt about it. We all get slammed all the time. I got slammed several times today with certain situations where I really had to notice, wow, this is dragging me down. I got to shift. I got to change gears. And so being empowered isn't about, being at first place at the podium all the time. Being empowered is being able to notice when you're out of sync and when you're in sync. And that's one of the strategies that I talk about. So wake up, show up, and shine, right? Hopefully you have a better idea of what I'm talking about here. And now I just want to go through briefly the practices and the strategies that I've come up with in my own life that have helped me to do all that, to wake up more often, to show up more fully, and to shine brightly in all areas of my life. So quickly here, because it's all in the book and it's all on my app, by the way. In my app, On The Verge, which is free, has tons of practices and a couple of strategies. The first practice is just to notice this moment, to remind yourself to notice more often, whether you have a bell, a ringer on your phone that chimes every once in a while, or at red lights, when you stop at a red light, notice, where am I? When you start to notice more often, you'll start shifting yourself more often from crazy busy to a more open and available place. So notice this moment is mindfulness practice. And in the book and on the app, I offer all these primer practices. They're simple, everyday ways of reminding yourself to notice. So there's some breathing exercises. One of my favorites is stargazing or sky gazing, taking a peek out the window and looking at the sky for a minute can help you to start noticing more often. So the first practice, notice this moment. Second is move my body. Moving your body every day in some capacity, walking, just doing a couple of big stretches, right? Moving your body every day, getting your blood going, your breath working, will help you to become more aware, awake and aware of where you are at any moment. So the more connected you can be with your body, with your toes and your thighs and your back and your heart beating, your breath, the more you're going to notice when you get very busy out there in other stuff, when you're not listening to your kids, right? When you're not focused on the email that needs to be sent or focused on the situation at work. Notice this moment, move my body, meet my mind. Meet my mind is the third practice. It is more of a formal meditation. More formal meditation means you're sitting, you're pausing, you're focusing your mind, you're training your mind to come back when you leave over and over again. This is the mental strength training. It's like doing bicep curls. This training for your mind, and I've got practices on the app and in the book, will help you to get better and better and better at noticing when you're not present, at noticing when you're not on the verge. And then the last practice is called Notes to Self. I think it's my favorite. It's the most fun. Notes to Self is a way of speaking to yourself. It's a way of changing your inner dialogue so that you're not berating yourself all the time. So you're not slapping yourself on the thigh saying, "Can't you focus? Why are you so busy?" It's a way of befriending yourself and being kind and joyful and cheerful. So I have all these notes to self in the book, and on the app, you can set a timer so that you get a bunch of notes to self throughout the day, and they're kind of fun. Notes to self really just interrupt you when you're in an unhelpful state of being, right? I like that, unhelpful, not helpful. So those are the practices. The strategies are less formal, and they're more ways for you to kind of surf the wave, right? For you to kind of find your balance when you're off balance. And these strategies you just hold in your pocket all the time. The first strategy is to be in sync. So at any time, we're either in sync or out of sync, in balance, out of balance. You know, it's like the plane that's going from New York to LA. You know that plane is usually off course slightly, but the pilot knows to how to bring it back. It's like riding a bike. Sometimes you're just a little off balance and you just learn how to maneuver. And so I have a bunch of suggestions how to maneuver yourself back into this state of being in sync and aligned. For instance, just being in stillness for a moment. That can help you tremendously to find your ground once again. The next strategy is to be kind. Sort of like notes to self, it's making friends with yourself and in letting go of the constant self-judgment, sense of unworthiness. It's really a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a condition that we've adopted in our culture, is to feel badly about ourselves. And so the more that we can start to notice how we speak to ourselves and change it by putting your hand on your heart, if you can out there, put your hand on your heart for one moment and take a breath. When you feel like you're about to say something bad to yourself, when you feel like you're about to shame yourself, put your hand on your heart and just say, there, there, just like you would a child. There, sweetheart, it's okay. You're trying, you're really trying, it's okay. I do it to myself all the time, or I speak to myself like I speak to my dog, or I spoke to my dog because he's gone. Come on over here, let's go do this. So that's be kind. The third strategy is to let it go, let it be. Can you let go of things, situations, people more easily? When we hold on to control with dear life, we cause ourselves a lot of suffering and a lot of stress. And so through these practices, we start to notice when we force, fix, and flee from uncomfortable situations. And when we start to notice that, we can allow ourselves just to let things go a little bit more. It doesn't mean allowing everybody to walk over you, but you know what I'm talking about. It's those little things that we feel like we've got to say something about all the time. We start letting that go. We find ourselves feeling brighter and lighter and more alive. And when we feel that way, you know what happens over and over and over again as we really start to shine. And then lastly, the final strategy, which is pretty dense. If you read the chapter, it's about becoming aware that you're aware. Noticing and recognizing when you are aware, and recognizing that that is a ripe opportunity to lean in and shine, be bold, be fearless, and shine. So most of the days we're walking around not aware that we're not aware. You know what I'm talking about when you're driving sometimes and you're like, whoa, I wasn't aware, right? Most of the time, a lot of us are pretty unconscious. Well, this strategy helps us to become aware when we are aware. That's a mouthful. Become aware when we're aware. And in so doing, we start to recognize more and more and more moments. It's like when you notice that you want to buy a certain type of car, and all of a sudden you see them all over the place. You start to recognize those moments in your life. I love it. And what happens when you do that is you become more joyful, more joy-filled. Because when we're present and we're in the moment, while they may not all be good moments, and God knows they're not all good moments, but when we are present for our lives in this moment, there is a sense of peace. There is a sense of joy because we are alive in our bodies in this moment. And so these practices and strategies can help us wake up, show up, and shine in this moment on the verge, not just once, but many times. And not just for one moment, but for multiple moments, until it becomes this experience, until it becomes a day or a week or a year. And then, boy, oh boy, does the magic start to happen. So on the verge, to be in this moment, to be feeling and experiencing, not thinking, out of your busy mind. In this moment, showing up fully engaged right here, right now. When we do this, just as I'm doing this right now with you all, we shine, we say the right words. We know what to say. We don't stumble, we're not doubtful. We're just right here in our shoes, in our body, in this moment, and we connect with each other fully. And we shine brightly. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining me for this trip on the verge. And so I hope that you can download the free app, buy the book. That would be wonderful. And check out my podcasts as well. I'm almost at 50 podcasts, weekly podcasts, short 15-minute snippets that sound very much like this. They're just really kind of coming from my raw gut with what I'm working on in my own life. So once again, Cara Bradley here. Thank you all for joining me. And if you're on the call for the book series, just hold on one moment and we'll get right back to the fun. Have a great one.